Social engineering was what I was discussing yesterday, and I told all of you that human beings are the weakest link in the chain. That is, the statistic says that around 90 to 95% of cyber attacks happen due to the human error. Again, around 90 to 95% of cyber attack happens because of the human error. And why do the humans perform these errors? Because they are not aware and they can easily be socially engineered. And that is social engineering. Okay, so there are different ways in which the attackers can social engineer. For example, the pretexting. Pretexting means, for example, let me give you an example. If you got a call from your school and if the guy in the other side of the call claims that he or she is from your IT support of the school and wants to reset your password and thus wants to know what your password is, let's say, that is pretexting. Okay, just pretending that they need some information from you anyhow. And tailgating, this is a common scenario because we have the tendency of holding the door, right, for somebody who is trying to get into the facility. Let's say I scanned my card, access card, and as I was entering, if there is somebody behind me, well, how I am trained since my childhood is to hold the door for somebody who is behind me. We might tend to forget that this is a secure facility where we need to show the access card. And if we forget that, the people can tailgate and get into the facility. And that's called tailgating. Okay. And another is something for something. I'll give you an example for this. I talk about this example a lot of times. Back in 2018-17, I was in a conference and there was a stall in the conference where they were giving away a beautiful water bottle and few bags, right? The laptop bags. But what they were asking is they were asking the information from the people. They had to fill up the form, and as a return of that, they would get the beautiful water bottle or, the handy bag, the laptop bag. The people failed to realize that they were exchanging those water bottles with their PIIs, the personally identifiable information. Maybe they were giving away their email address, their phone number, their home address, right? That is something for something. They were easily being socially engineered just because showing those water bottles, right? It was crazy. But think of this, something for something, okay? People would lure you with something and they will get your personally identifiable information or some other useful information for them. Now, I discussed about DOS and DDoS yesterday. DOS stands for denial of service. DDoS stands for distributed denial of service. And if the attackers compromises a lot of systems and creates the network of those bots, these are called botnet or sometimes called zombies also. If you can relate it with the zombies movies you might have seen. And there is something called on-path attacks, or the important on-path attacks that you should know is man in the middle. The name itself is very revealing. Man in the middle. What might that mean? Let's see. Look at this. This person is trying to get to the internet. This is the right way to get to the internet. This is the original connection. But somehow the attacker convinced the person or convinced the user in this using this system that it is this way to go to the internet. Now what happens? The user is still going to the internet, no issues. He doesn't see any issues. Still getting reply back from the internet. But guess what? There is someone in the middle reading all the information. There is someone in the middle who has access to all the data that you are transmitting to and fro the internet. That is man in the middle attack. This man in the middle attack can reveal your password, can reveal your important information, and many other things. Man in the middle, MITM in the short. The next one is SEO poisoning. This is very interesting, guys. SEO poisoning. SEO stands for search engine optimization. So what is search engine optimization? I'll give you an example. Let's say if I go to Google and if I type something, let's say if I type laptop or hotels, let's say, right? Or hotels Mississauga, let's say, or hotels near me, or just hotels, let's say. Now, if I type hotels here, why does this hotel.com or why does this hotel.coms appear in the first of this list? And in the second, there is booking.com. Third, there is expedia.com. Fourth, there is choicehotels.com and so on, right? Because there is an algorithm that Google follows. There is an algorithm that any search engine follows. And using that algorithm, what they do is they rank the websites. And according to this ranking, if you look for any keywords, these websites appear according to their numbers in the rank, right? It's always good for for an organization to show up or to show their or to appear their website in the front when somebody searches for something, right? At the top of the list. That's any organization want. And that's why they do something called search engine optimization. It is something good to do if you are promoting your business, a legitimate business. But what happens? The attackers or the bad actors or the threat actors, what they do is they create the malicious websites, the harmful websites, right? And they use the same optimization algorithm so that their website appears at the top. So let's say I have, let's say somebody creates a malicious websites and they use this search engine optimization and somehow made their website at the top. And somebody looking for hotels will click that website and give their information to that malicious website. That is called search engine optimization poisoning. So you are using your malicious website, you're optimizing your malicious website so that that appears in the top when somebody is searching for some keyword. That is search engine optimization. Now, guys, I'm talking about very important thing, that is the Wi-Fi. We all use Wi-Fi these days, right? Most of the times we use Wi-Fi. Now, Wi-Fi, everything is in air. For example, think of your home router. Just imagine where your home router, you know, at least you know where your home router is, right? You know that. Think of this. And let's say you are using your cell phone. Of course, this is a Wi-Fi connection. So everything that is transmitted between your home router and your cell phone, guys, listen to me carefully. Everything that is being transmitted between your home router and your cell phone is through the free space. It uses RF, radio frequency wave. Just don't worry about RF right now if you don't know. They use the free space. Yes or no? If it was a wired connection, the Ethernet, let's say if your desktop is connected through the Ethernet, the wired, this is called Ethernet, it is through the wire. But if it's Wi-Fi, it is free space. Now you can imagine the risk associated with the Wi-Fi. The risk associated with the Wi-Fi is that the information is flowing in the free air, and it is easy to intercept. Means easy to read. There are a lot of applications which enables you to do so. It is easy to intercept the traffic, the information that is flowing in the free air than that is flowing through the wire. So Wi-Fi comes with the inherent risk of being intercepted. That's why we need to encrypt. Listen to me carefully, guys. I'm making the base here. We need to encrypt the traffic. that is moving to and fro from your router to your device. For example, your smartphone in this case, or your cell phone in this case. We need to encrypt this traffic. Now, what is encryption? Encryption is making the text unreadable. For example, if you are transmitting Apple, maybe you transmit it as something like CRJCE. I'm just giving a very simple example, right? Just for making the text is that the attackers cannot read it, or illegitimate person cannot read it. That is encryption. So the communication between the router and your cell phone should be encrypted. Obviously, if it's laptop, that should be encrypted. Now, this encryption, today we use encryption called WPA2. Now, when you see your if you ever have changed your Wi-Fi password, or if you ever have configured your router, you might have seen this encryption as WPA2. And this is the best encryption to choose. But now, with the advent of time in 2017, WPA2 was found that it is no more secure. It is also vulnerable. That's why now they have come up with the new standard called WPA3. WPA stands for Wi-Fi protected access. Wi-Fi protected access. Now, what is WPA2 and WPA3, guys? I just want you to know this thing. This is nothing, but this is the encryption standard that is used in Wi-Fi. That is, when you are using the Wi-Fi, the communication between the router and your cell phone should be encrypted. And WPA2 and WPA3 are this encryption standard, and WPA3 is the future. WPA2 has its own weaknesses. Just know this. Okay, guys? WPA2 stands for Wi-Fi protected access to. Wi-Fi is easily interceptable. Anybody can intercept it. That's why we need to encrypt it. Even if they intercept, they will not understand it. And we have to encrypt it in a secure way. WPA2 was supposed to be secure until 2017. It has also its own vulnerability. Now WPA3 is the future. That's what I want you to know, guys. Now, password attacks. Have you ever heard any relatives or friends telling you that their password has been hacked, or somebody know their passwords somehow? They might have been the victim of password attacks. There are different ways the passwords can be attacked. I'm just taking you to this. The first way is called password spraying. Guys, just please listen to me carefully. I'm talking about a lot of terms and technologies today. So password spraying, guys. How does password spraying works? The attacker here, what the attacker does is the attacker takes a lot of usernames, maybe thousands of usernames, and tries a same password against all the users. And the attacker might succeed in any one of those or couple of those. This technique is called password spraying. Doesn't it look like a spray, guys? Using the same password, spraying the same password over a lot of users. That's why it's called password spraying. Another one, very interesting, is called dictionary attack. Now, as you can see here, guys, these are the top 50 common passwords that the people use. I hope none of you have used these passwords in any of your applications. These are the top 50 passwords that the people use. It keeps on changing. Now, what is dictionary attack? It's very simple, but very powerful tool, guys. Look at this. What the attackers will do is the attackers will create the dictionary. Well, that dictionary will have maybe millions of words. What type of words? The probable passwords. The trends. They look at the trends the people are usually using in the password. For example, after COVID-19, there was a big trend that the people had COVID in their password somehow. It's people's psychology, right? So according to the situation, the trends change. And these attackers, they maintain the list of those words in a dictionary. You can even buy the dictionary, right? You can pay the money and buy the dictionary of these probable passwords. And what they do is there are some tools like JTR. Again, don't get overwhelmed. This is not your part. I'm just letting you know the names. JTR stands for John the Ripper. And there is another tool called Hascat. So these tools are used in Linux system. So there is another operating system which is called Linux. So the attackers use these tools in which you feed that dictionary and you feed a username. So let's say you are attacking a user called ABC and you have a dictionary of millions of words. So what these tools will do, this tool will uh, try every dictionary password against this user, millions of those passwords against the user, right? And there can be success if the user has used any of those passwords from this dictionary. But success is not guaranteed, guys. Success is not guaranteed in dictionary attack. Let's say if your password is really complex and that's not in your dictionary, well, the hacker will be unsuccessful. That's why it is important for your password to have some random characters, the numbers, and a sufficient length. You know why it is implemented now, right? Because if you use the dictionary password, it is a matter of seconds for these tools to crack your password. If you use the passwords like Michael, Dragon, or Mustang, or Jordan, whatever, you will get hacked very quickly. Your password will be revealed very quickly, and that is dictionary attack. Now, there is another one called brute force attack. Well, brute force attack is a kind of dictionary attack, but you will not maintain a list of words in brute force, but you will try each and every characters and combinations possible. You will definitely have success in the brute force attack, but it might take months, years, decades, who knows, right? But the success is guaranteed in brute force attacks. Rainbow attack is a kind of dictionary attack, but it's more quicker. Traffic interception is like man in the middle. You are looking at the traffic and finding the password. That is traffic interception. Now, if the things that I described just now was too much heavy for you guys, I'm not surprised because this is the first time you are hearing. But know the basics. The basics is do not use the dictionary passwords. What do you mean by dictionary password? Do not use the password that can be in the dictionary of the attacker, because the attacker will maintain the dictionary, right? And they will use the tools to attack against you. So always make your passwords such that nobody can guess it, right? So these are password attacks. It would be very interesting for you to show this JTR and Hascat with a live demonstration. You really enjoy that, but this is first of all, this is a basic and fundamental class. And second, we don't have enough time for this. But hopefully in the future, we'll have certain sessions in which I can demonstrate all this cracking in a live environment. That would be really interesting. Okay, now there is something called Advanced Persistent Threat, or APT. APT is some threat that is well funded with enough technology at their disposal. For example, Stuxnet, right? Stuxnet was well funded. It was funded from the state level, from the country level, not only one country. There was a coalition of a couple of countries, right? So that is Advanced Persistent Threat, or APT in short. Okay, now let's go to the next topic called vulnerability and exploits. Before explaining what vulnerability and exploit is, let me show you this thing. This is not my picture. This is from some website, but look at this, guys. This is the backyard window or the backside window of some house. What is the weakness here? The open window. That is the vulnerability of this house. Anybody trying to get into the house can use this window. That is the vulnerability of this house, the weakness. So this weakness can never be known because nobody checked it, or this weakness can be known immediately and can be exploited. So there are two terms, guys. One is vulnerability and one is exploit. Vulnerability is the weakness. Exploit is the weapon that you create to make the use of that weakness. For example, again, not a good example, but just bear with me, just to make you clear on the concepts. Let's say you're having a fight with someone, and let's say that your opponent just had the surgery in the right leg. So you know that your opponent's right leg is weak, and that will be a great hint for you when you are having fight with your opponent, right? Just bear with me, guys. Not a good example, but that's how it is. If you know the weakness, you can create your weapon according to that and attack against your opponent, right? And execute the attack against the opponent. So that is vulnerability and exploit. So these vulnerabilities can be hardware related or can be software related. Hardware related vulnerability is because of the shortcomings in the hardware design, the failures in the hardware design. For example, there was row hammering vulnerability. Again, this can be too much for you, but still I'll try my best to explain it in short, okay? Let's see if I have the picture here for row hammering. Yeah, look at this, guys. First of all, know that your PC or your computer processes everything digitally. For example, if you type A, it's A you are typing, but at the back end, everything is being turned into digital, right? So this is a unit of RAM. If you are wondering how the unit of RAM looks like, this is the unit of RAM. Means this structure here stores either 1 or 0. This is a transistor and capacitor. Again, you don't need to know what transistor and capacitor is for this class. And this is the RAM, right? Not the total RAM, but just a block of RAM. Now look at this. This 1 and 0 is stored according to the charging and discharging of the capacitor. Now, if these units are placed too close to each other, what happens is if somebody tries to rapidly change uh, uh, the ones and zeros here, that will interfere with the another unit cell, and another unit cell's value changes from 1 to 0 or 0 to 1. That means because these units were placed too close to each other, there was an electromagnetic interference. There was an interference of the electric signal from one unit to another unit and caused change in the data. And that was called row hammering vulnerability. Again, if you did not understand it, that's okay. Just know the name, row hammering vulnerability. And there is meltdown and spectre, just know the names. And another is software vulnerabilities. Now, I want to talk more about the software vulnerabilities. One thing, every operating system is composed of millions of lines of codes. I hope all of you agree with this. Every operating system, I'm again repeating this, guys, please. Every operating system is composed of millions of lines of codes. Now, when they are writing the code, they don't know about the defects in those codes, right? Each code will have lot of defects or lot of vulnerabilities or lot of weaknesses. These weaknesses can be known in the future. For example, this open window here would be known in the future someday to the attackers, right? This should be known to the attackers in someday in the future. Similarly, your operating system or your software, whatever, whatever software you have or whatever operating system you have, there can be a lot of vulnerabilities which will be known in the future. That's why the operating system vendors, they provide you with the updates and they tell you that these updates have essential security fixes and patches. What do they mean by that? Well, they mean that our software, our operating system has a lot of lines of code in which some codes can be easily manipulated. There is some weakness in that code that can be used by the attackers. So we are writing another piece of code to overcome that weakness, and that is called patch and fixes they call. So they release this patch and fixes in the form of updates. And that is why it is very essential for us to update the operating system or update your applications. Why do we need to update our applications? It's not just the aesthetic update. It is also about updating your patches or installing those patches so that you will be more secure, so that those vulnerabilities are overcome. For example, in this case, if somebody tells you that your window is open in the backyard, please close it. That is a patch. Okay, so you're closing the windows. So similarly, in your software, there can be a lot of weaknesses, and they release the patches and fixes and push you with those updates. And it's very important for you to update your applications and operating systems as they are available most of the times. Okay, so now the main motive is to let you understand what vulnerability is, what exploit is, what how the operating systems are designed. There are the lines of codes. There can be a lot of weaknesses in the code, and that's why they release the patches and fixes it, and then they send you the updates. And it's very important for you to update those operating systems. And that is about software vulnerabilities, right? And to talk more about the software vulnerabilities, there are a few more things that I need to talk. But first of all, buffer overflow. So again, what is buffer overflow? So if you see this here, what is a buffer? Buffer is a temporary memory. Again, buffer, the meaning of buffer is a temporary memory. Now look at this. You have a certain size of buffer here that is assigned to you. But what happened is the attacker somehow override the buffer, meaning their data went to the buffer that is assigned to other program. So what happens if this happens? This happens, the other program will crash. A very basic explanation of buffer overflow attack. Buffer overflow just means that you are not being limited to your space. You're getting into somebody else's space and making them uncomfortable or making them dysfunctional. That is buffer overflow. So here if you're into your space, that was okay. But if you write something more and it spills over to the memory allocated to the other applications or users, then that will cause the other applications and users to crash or other applications to crash. And that is buffer overflow. It is one of the sophisticated concepts in cybersecurity, but I try to make it as simple as possible, guys. Buffer overflow. And another is non-validated input. Again, this is another difficult example, but I'll try to explain it quickly. Okay, let's say you are into a website and they are asking you a name, address, and so on, right? And you are filling up these forms. Let's say instead of writing your name here, if you are let's say there is an attacker, instead of writing the name, the attacker wrote the whole code here, the malicious code, and click the submit button. If the software designers do not validate the input, meaning what do you mean by input validation? If it is name here, it should be name. If something other than name is written here, that input should be disregarded, or there should be an error message going to the user. But if the input is not validated, even if the attackers run the whole code in this field, they will be able to submit it and compromise the website. That is non-validated input. So when you're designing your software, when you're designing your application, when you're designing your website, you must validate the input. Meaning, if the in the name field, if there is a curly bracket, right? Because the softwares have the curly bracket, software have some characters, right? This should raise the flag, and you should be able to disregard those inputs from the user. That is, you need to validate the input. And if you are not validating the input, that is your software vulnerability, or that is non-validated input. Okay, and weakness in security practices and access control problems are the same thing, like uh, getting the user authenticated properly, letting the user enter the passwords or username, and so on, right? So these are, and I already talked about the importance of the software opt-in. So these are mainly the security vulnerability and exploits. Once you know the vulnerability, then you create the weapon. For example, if you are acting as a penetration tester, first of all, the first thing you do is you scan for the vulnerability. You scan for the weaknesses in the network, weaknesses in the system, and then you create your weapon and you exploit those systems. That is exploits. So vulnerability and exploits. Please remember these two terms. Now, very quickly, I would like to explain cryptocurrency and cryptojacking. I'm not explaining what cryptocurrency is, but cryptocurrency is a kind of digital currency. Well, that doesn't, involve the banking that we know of. We know the banking that involves the cash transactions, or we know what banking is, right? This cryptocurrency doesn't involve this, traditional banks. It has its own blockchain technology that is in use, right? You might have heard about many cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and so on. So this cryptocurrency, the, okay, I'll just shorten this discussion. We have cryptocurrency, which is a digital currency. And there is something called crypto mining. Crypto mining. What is crypto mining? Well, crypto mining is something that you can do to own the digital coin. Crypto mining is something that you can do. I'm in a very high level, guys. Please, we have cryptocurrency. That is a digital currency, unlike the currency that we are used to right now. Then we have crypto mining. Crypto mining is done to own the crypto coin or digital currencies or digital coin. Now, crypto mining is resource incentive. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by resource incentive? Resource incentive means the crypto mining process requires lot of processing, lot of RAM, lot of resource, computing resource we are talking about. That's why what the attackers do is they attack a lot of systems and they use those systems for crypto mining, so that they do not have to invest in those resources themselves. How does it sound, guys? You need a lot of resources for crypto mining, you don't have that money to invest in those resources. So what you do is you attack other system and use those systems for crypto mining and use their computing resources for your crypto mining. And that is called cryptojacking. Okay, just on a high level, guys. Cryptocurrency, crypto mining, and cryptojacking. Okay, so please go through the quiz after this. And I'm going to module 3 now. So in the module 3, I already talked about the thing in module 3, which is called WPA2, wireless protected access 2. But WPA2, the flaw was found in 2017, which was called crack vulnerability. And that's why we are now moving to WPA3. Okay, now I'll ask everyone a question. Have you ever used the public Wi-Fi, maybe in Starbucks, a Tim Horton, or Go Train, or in the airport? Most of us have used it, right? But have you ever done your banking transaction through the public Wi-Fi? If you have ever done that, well, that was not the good thing to do. Have you ever sent some secret message or signed a contract or done something that you think is something that you don't want to share with anybody by using the public Wi-Fi? Or have you ever entered your password by using public Wi-Fi? Well, if you have done that, then you have already exposed yourself to a risk. Public Wi-Fi is full of risks. Why? As I told you, Wi-Fi is a free space communication, right? So there is a router, there is you, and everything between the router, this router is connected to the internet, of course. So everything between the router and you is in the free space. And guys, if you are using the public Wi-Fi, the chances are high that this communication is unencrypted. Think of this. You're doing your banking transaction by using the public Wi-Fi in the Starbucks. Well, you're entering your debit card, you're entering your passcode. Everything is transmitted in the plain text. Anybody with even a very less knowledge about these things can easily intercept this communication and know your information about the debit card or your passwords, anything. Therefore, you should always restrict yourself from using the public Wi-Fi. If you must use it, please use something called VPN or virtual private network. What does VPN do? Well, VPN will encrypt your communication right from your device so that you don't have to rely on this communication. That is VPN or virtual private network. I'll be talking about VPN later, but if you must use the public Wi-Fi, please use VPN. I know there is a cost associated with that, but there is a way around also. Again, this is the part of discussion in the future classes if you are together, but public Wi-Fi is full of risks. And if you must use it, please use your VPN. Now, which password is termed as a strong password? So you can see here, and you already know these things, right? Do not use the dictionary words because you can be attacked with a dictionary attack, as I described earlier. And use your characters and everything, right? Do not use the common names. Don't use that. So the strong password is long password with sufficient characters, numbers, and uncertainty, right? Nobody can guess. This should be your own secret that nobody will know. And there is one important thing, guys. Using passphrase is more better. Using passphrase is better than using the password. So what is a passphrase? Passphrase is just a long, for example, you see this. These are all passwords, right? You are using a word. But passphrase is you are using a phrase. That phrase is your own phrase, your own secret phrase. Don't use the phrase from a popular song, popular movie. Don't do that. Don't quote the phrase from Shakespeare or from your favorite writer. Don't do that. That will still be cracked. You can come up with your own phrase and use that as your password. And while using that phrase also, it is it is better if you can include some characters and numbers in that. So this one is the better. This is the best way to use the passwords. Use a phrase, not a word. Use a phrase with the combination of the numbers and the special characters. Passphrase is better than a password, and that is NIST guideline. So there are some guidelines from NIST. It says that you have to use the password instead of the, sorry, you have to use the passphrase instead of the password. Because passphrase, it is very rare for the passphrase to be attacked from the dictionary attack or password spray attack or whatever attacks I talked about. Okay. And now the new NIST recommendation also tells that there should be no composition rules such as having lowercase, uppercase, because when you have these composition rules, the people end up using the complex passwords and they end up forgetting the passwords, right? So rather than using this complex characters, words in a single word, just remember a phrase that you only will know and use that phrase as your password. That's the best way to do. And that's the best way to secure yourself from these password based attacks. Okay. Okay, I will stop right here now and I'll open the floor for questions. I really appreciate if you have some questions. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Supa. Well, this is a great question. Where is the place to store your password? Uh, it is not recommended to store the best place to store the password is our brain, but I know we have some limitations of brains, especially we have a lot of passwords to remember. So the best thing to do is to use the password manager tool. Again, it comes with some cost, but that is the best tool to use. The password managing tool. There are some password management tools that are available. And of course, all of them comes with the cost. And there is another question, I guess. What does NIST stand for? If I did not tell, NIST is it is US it is from US actually. It's National Institute of Standards and Technology. National Institute of Standards and Technology. NIST has a lot of standards related to cybersecurity. It has standards related to incident response, related to passcodes, passphrase, and a lot of standards, other standards related to IT or information technology. Great questions. If there is no question, no more questions, we'll call it a day. And please go through your course and go through the module and try to answer those questions. How often should you change your passwords? Earlier, they used to recommend that the passwords should be changed every 3 months. But what happened is when we are enforcing the people to change the passwords every 3 months, they again ended up using the same password, for example, with a little variation. For example, let's say if I used a password called DOOR123. This is not a good password. I'm just giving you an example. DOOR123. And if you force them to change the password after 3 months, they will use DOOR124. and after another 3 months they will use door 125, right? So enforcing the passwords to be changed periodically also could end up uh, uh, the users being using the using the recurrent password with the certain variations only, and that is also not a good practice. So that's why uh, the password should be changed periodically, but we cannot enforce. It's not good to enforce, for example, 3 months or 6 months, and that's what the NIST recommends. It should be changed periodically, uh, but it should not be the same password throughout the whole year. That's the thing.